Hey guys, tonight we're taking a truly tranquil trip back in time, all the way to the heart of what was once one of the most magnificent cities in the world, Tenochtitlan. Imagine, if you will, the gentle lapping of water against earth, the soft rustle of leaves in a warm breeze, and the faint, sweet scent of unfamiliar blossoms drifting through the air. You're standing, or perhaps more accurately, gently floating, amidst a sprawling metropolis built on a lake, a city that, unlike most of its European contemporaries, was bursting with green life. Think less grimy medieval alleyway, and more, a botanical wonderland. Seriously, if you somehow managed to survive the journey there, avoiding all sorts of curious historical hazards, you'd probably find yourself thinking, wow, this place smells surprisingly good. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're up for it, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself arriving, not by dusty road, but by canoe, gliding through a network of canals that crisscross the city. The air isn't thick with the smoke of hearth fires, but rather with the fresh, earthy aroma of damp soil and vibrant foliage. Tenochtitlan, the beating heart of the Aztec Empire, wasn't just a city of stone and adobe. It was a city of gardens. Everywhere you look, green spills over, up and out. From the grand, formal pleasure grounds of the nobility to the tiny, utilitarian patches clinging to every available surface, the Aztecs were, undeniably, master gardeners. It's a mainstream historical fact that their urban planning was revolutionary, particularly their integration of agriculture directly into the city fabric. This wasn't just about aesthetics. It was about survival, sustenance, and a profound connection to the natural world. You might think of it as the ultimate urban farm, but with way more feathered serpents. As your canoe drifts, you notice something truly peculiar about the land itself. It seems to be floating, or at least, it gives that impression. These aren't solid banks you're passing, but rather vast, rectangular islands of fertile earth, tethered to the lakebed by ingenious means. This brings us to one of the most fascinating aspects of Aztec horticulture, and one that allowed their gardens to flourish in such an unlikely setting. These were the chinampas, often called floating gardens, though that's a bit of a misnomer, as they were firmly anchored, built up from layers of mud, decaying vegetation, and stakes. Historians still argue whether the chinampas were solely for agricultural production or if some were also integrated into formal garden designs, providing both food and beauty. What's clear is that they were incredibly productive, turning a watery environment into some of the most fertile farmland in the world. It's like they figured out hydroponics centuries before anyone else, but with significantly more mud and fewer sterile tubes. Imagine the sheer amount of labor, the intricate knowledge of water, soil, and plant life required to create and maintain such a system. You can almost hear the rhythmic splash of paddles and the low hum of workers going about their tasks, a constant, soothing backdrop to the city's gentle pulse. These chinampas weren't just for growing corn and beans, though they certainly excelled at that. Imagine floating past one, and instead of neat rows of maize, you see vibrant patches of flowers, marigolds, dahlias, and the delicate orchid-like Sempoalxicatl. The Aztecs weren't just practical, they had a profound appreciation for beauty, and their gardens reflected this. You might even catch a glimpse of someone gently poling their canoe along the narrow waterways separating these garden plots, perhaps tending to a patch of chili peppers or harvesting a basket of plump tomatoes, all destined for the bustling markets of Tenochtitlan. It's like a serene, watery agricultural ballet. The genius of the chinampas lay in their constant replenishment. The lake mud, rich with organic matter, was regularly dredged from the canals and layered onto the garden beds, creating an incredibly fertile soil that never needed fallowing. This allowed for multiple harvests throughout the year, supporting the immense population of the city. You'd think a system this productive would be teeming with all sorts of creepy crawlies, but the constant water management kept things surprisingly balanced. Beyond the immediate agricultural areas, the concept of a garden in Tenochtitlan extended to something far grander. You are now, perhaps, approaching the fringes of one of the true crown jewels of Aztec horticulture, the royal gardens. These weren't mere vegetable patches. They were expansive, meticulously designed landscapes that served as symbols of imperial power, centers of scientific study, and tranquil retreats for the ruling elite. Think of them as part botanical museum, part opulent park, part very exclusive spa. A mainstream historical fact is that the Aztec emperors, particularly Moctezuma I and Moctezuma II, were renowned for their love of gardens and actively commissioned their creation and expansion. These were spaces designed not just for utility, but for pleasure, contemplation, and the display of exotic wonders. One of the most famous of these royal gardens was located on the hill of Chapultepec, Grasshopper Hill, a short distance from the heart of the city. As you approach, you'd notice the air growing cooler, the shade more profound. Here, the Aztecs, with their incredible engineering prowess, diverted fresh springs to create elaborate irrigation systems, ensuring a constant supply of water for the diverse flora and fauna within. You'd stroll along shaded pathways, perhaps feeling the soft, cool spray of a fountain, a true luxury in a warm climate. Imagine the sounds, the gentle gurgle of flowing water, the chirping of unseen birds, and perhaps the distant, rhythmic beat of a drum from the city. It's a far cry from the noisy, muddy streets you might imagine in other ancient cities. A quirky tidbit about Chapultepec was its zoo-like enclosures, not just for native animals, but for exotic creatures brought from far-flung corners of the empire. You might have seen jaguars, eagles, or even strange, colorful birds you'd never encountered before, all housed in respectful, naturalistic settings designed to please the emperor's eye. Historians still argue whether the primary purpose of these animal collections was scientific study, prestige, or simply entertainment for the imperial court. Regardless, these were truly awe-inspiring spaces, a testament to Aztec ingenuity and their deep connection to the natural world. Stepping further into these grand royal gardens, you'd find yourself immersed in a living library of plants. This wasn't just about pretty flowers and shade trees. The Aztecs were incredibly sophisticated botanists, and their gardens served as vital centers for the study and cultivation of medicinal plants. Imagine rows upon rows of carefully tended herbs, each one known for its unique properties. You might see the vibrant scarlet flowers of the talochi, known for its use as an anesthetic, or the humble copalxicotl tree, whose resin was used as incense in religious ceremonies and for its antiseptic qualities. It's a mainstream historical fact that the Aztecs had an extensive understanding of pharmacology, documented in texts like the Libellus de Medicinalibus Indorum Herbis, or the Badianus manuscript, compiled shortly after the Spanish conquest, which detailed hundreds of plants and their uses. This wasn't just folk wisdom, it was systematic knowledge, passed down through generations. You might even witness a tlamatini, a wise person or scholar, gently examining a leaf, perhaps noting its texture or the way the light catches its veins, all part of their ongoing botanical research. They weren't just treating symptoms. They were developing a holistic understanding of the natural world and its healing potential. A quirky tidbit is that some of these medicinal gardens also contain plants used for ritualistic purposes, or even those known for their hallucinogenic properties, employed in specific ceremonies to connect with the divine. Imagine trying to explain that to your local pharmacist. Yes, I'd like some seeing the future herbs, please. Historians still argue about the exact extent to which these psychoactive plants were integrated into daily medicinal practice versus solely spiritual rites, but their presence in these curated spaces is undeniable. The sheer diversity of plants, many brought from different ecological zones across the vast Aztec Empire, is truly astonishing. You'd observe specialists carefully transplanting delicate seedlings or tending to rare specimens that thrived only in specific microclimates, painstakingly replicated within the garden walls. It was a sophisticated operation, far beyond simple gardening. It was applied science. These gardens weren't just places of beauty. They were vital for public health, spiritual well-being, and imperial prestige, showcasing the emperor's ability to command resources from every corner of his domain. You could spend hours wandering through these green corridors, breathing in the various scents, pungent herbs, sweet blossoms, the earthy smell of rich soil, a symphony for the senses designed to soothe and inform. It's like a really, really old, very well-maintained botanical garden, but with fewer gift shops. To truly appreciate the glory of these Aztec gardens, you need to understand the absolute mastery they displayed over water. Tenochtitlan, remember, was built on a lake, a saline lake at that. Yet, its gardens, and indeed its entire population, thrived on fresh water. Imagine the logistical nightmare, and then marvel at their solutions. As you wander through these royal botanical havens, you'd be constantly aware of the presence of water, not just in the gentle mist from fountains or the reflection pools, but in the intricate network of canals and aqueducts that snaked through the landscape. It's a mainstream historical fact that the Aztecs constructed sophisticated aqueduct systems, most famously the two main aqueducts from Chapultepec, to bring fresh spring water directly into the city and its gardens. This wasn't a simple ditch. These were engineered marvels, often twin pipes that allowed for maintenance on one while the other continued to supply water, ensuring a continuous flow. You might observe garden workers meticulously tending to small channels, adjusting sluice gates, or carefully clearing debris to ensure an uninterrupted flow to different sections of the garden. It was a constant, attentive dance with the water, a crucial element for life and beauty. A quirky tidbit is that some historians believe the Aztecs even used a form of hydraulic gardening, where specific plants were placed in areas with controlled water flow to mimic their natural riverine or marshy habitats. It's like they were creating microecosystems within their curated spaces. Historians still argue about the exact methods used to prevent salinization in the chinampas that bordered the salty lake, but the continuous introduction of fresh water and the regular dredging of organic matter were undoubtedly key. The sound of flowing water would have been a constant, soothing presence in these gardens. Picture yourself leaning against a cool stone wall, listening to the gentle gurgle of a channel carrying life-giving water to a bed of vibrant marigolds. It's a sound that naturally invites relaxation, a stark contrast to the distant hum of a bustling city. This wasn't just practical, it was profoundly aesthetic. The Aztecs understood that water was not only essential for growth, but also a key element in creating a tranquil, harmonious environment. They sculpted it, directed it, and celebrated its presence, turning necessity into an art form. You'd almost forget you were in the middle of a massive urban center. So complete was the illusion of a verdant, well-watered paradise. It was less a garden with water features, and more a water feature with a garden attached. Beyond their practical uses, the gardens of the Aztec Empire held deep spiritual significance. You'd find yourself walking through spaces designed not just for physical sustenance or aesthetic pleasure, but as living manifestations of their cosmology. Imagine a perfectly manicured plot of land, where every plant, every stone, every flow of water seems to be placed with deliberate intent, reflecting a grander, sacred order. It's a mainstream historical fact that the Aztecs incorporated religious symbolism into almost every aspect of their lives, and their gardens were no exception. Specific trees, like the Awi Montezuma cypress, were revered for their age and grandeur, often seen as connecting the underworld, the earthly realm, and the heavens. You might see one of these massive, ancient trees standing majestically, its roots reaching deep into the earth, its branches stretching towards the sky, inspiring a quiet awe. As you wander, you might notice patterns in the planting, certain arrangements of flowers or specific species clustered together. These weren't random. A quirky tidbit is that the layout of some gardens is believed to have mirrored the Aztec cosmos, with certain areas representing different cardinal directions or divine realms. For instance, flowers sacred to specific deities, like the vibrant marigold for Huitzilopochtli, the god of war and sun, would be prominently featured in areas dedicated to them. It's like a living, breathing temple, where the offerings weren't just incense, but the very life of the plants themselves. You might pause by a small pond, reflecting the sky, and consider how the calm surface was seen as a gateway to other dimensions, a place where the veil between worlds thinned. Historians still argue about the exact calendrical or astronomical alignments of some garden features, but the underlying principle of sacred geometry and natural symbolism is widely accepted. The very act of gardening, of nurturing life from the earth, was seen as a sacred endeavor, a collaboration with the gods who brought forth sustenance. You could almost feel the reverence in the air, a sense of quiet respect for the growth around you. The gentle rustle of leaves would become a soft whisper of ancient prayers, and the fragrance of blooming flowers would seem like an offering rising to the heavens. It wasn't just about cultivating plants. It was about cultivating a connection to the divine. You'd be in a space designed to invite contemplation and spiritual reflection, where the beauty of the natural world served as a constant reminder of the interconnectedness of all things. It's a profound experience, far beyond what you might expect from a simple stroll through a garden. As you explore these sacred spaces, you'd quickly realize that the Aztec gardens weren't solely for human enjoyment. They were vibrant ecosystems, deliberately designed to attract and sustain a variety of animal life, particularly birds. Imagine the gentle fluttering of wings, the soft chirping and trilling sounds that would have filled the air, creating a natural symphony. It's a mainstream historical fact that the Aztecs had a profound respect for birds, often associating them with deities and cosmic forces. Their vibrant plumage was highly prized for elaborate featherwork, a prestigious art form. You might see a flash of emerald green as a quetzal bird, renowned for its long tail feathers, darts between branches, or hear the distinct call of a hummingbird, flitting from one blossom to another, drawn by the nectar. These gardens often included specific plantings designed to provide food and shelter for various avian species. A quirky tidbit is that some garden designs even incorporated artificial nesting sites or perches, essentially creating luxurious bird hotels. It's like they were running a five-star resort for their feathered friends. You might even stumble upon an enclosure designed to house larger, more exotic birds of prey, kept for their majestic presence or for their feathers, but still integrated into the overall garden aesthetic rather than feeling like a sterile zoo exhibit. Historians still argue about the exact methods used to encourage specific bird species to inhabit particular gardens, but the evidence points to a sophisticated understanding of ornithology and habitat creation. Beyond the birds, you might also spot other creatures gracefully making their way through the foliage. Perhaps a small, brightly colored lizard basking on a warm stone, or the slow, deliberate movement of a turtle in a quiet pond. These animals weren't just accidental inhabitants. They were integral to the living tapestry of the garden, adding to its vibrancy and natural charm. The soundscape of these gardens would have been incredibly rich: the rustle of leaves, the gentle splash of water, and the constant, soothing background chorus of various animal sounds. It's a far cry from the concrete jungles we often inhabit today. These were places where nature was not just tolerated, but actively invited and cherished. You'd find yourself slowing down, instinctively, just to take in the serene beauty and listen to the quiet hum of life all around you. While the royal gardens of Chapultepec and others were certainly breathtaking, most Aztec citizens wouldn't have had access to such sprawling estates. However, that doesn't mean they lived in a world devoid of green spaces. Far from it. As you drift through the more common residential districts of Tenochtitlan, you'd notice a different kind of garden, one that speaks to the ingenuity and resourcefulness of everyday people. It's a mainstream historical fact that even commoner homes in Tenochtitlan often featured small, enclosed courtyard gardens or rooftop plots. These weren't for grand displays, but for highly practical purposes, serving as vital extensions of the household. Imagine a small, sun-drenched space, perhaps no bigger than your modern-day patio, meticulously tended. You might see a family cultivating a few stalks of maize or beans for daily consumption, ensuring a fresh supply of food right at their doorstep. Perhaps a small patch of herbs for cooking or for simple remedies, a homegrown medicine cabinet. A quirky tidbit is that these private gardens were often enclosed by reed fences or low stone walls, not just for privacy, but also to protect the precious plants from roaming animals or the curious eyes of passers-by. It was their little patch of personal Eden, a sanctuary within the bustling city. You might even notice simple, hand-painted clay pots holding vibrant flowers, adding a touch of color and beauty to an otherwise utilitarian space. Historians still argue about the exact proportion of urban households that maintained such gardens, but archaeological evidence suggests they were a widespread feature of Tenochtitlan's urban landscape. The air in these smaller, more intimate gardens would have been different from the grand royal estates. Less exotic perfume, more the earthy scent of growing vegetables and the subtle fragrance of everyday flowers. The sounds would be different too, perhaps the gentle clucking of a few chickens, the quiet chatter of children playing nearby, or the rhythmic sound of grinding maize. These gardens were a testament to the Aztec people's deep connection to the land and their ability to integrate agriculture and nature into even the densest urban environments. They provided not only food and medicine, but also a quiet respite, a little piece of nature to call their own, right in the heart of the city. You might find yourself admiring the sheer efficiency and dedication, fitting so much life into such a compact space. It's a very early example of what we might now call urban gardening, but with more hummingbirds and fewer artisanal coffee shops. Beyond mere utility, the Aztecs possessed a sophisticated aesthetic sense, and their gardens were a vibrant canvas for this artistry. You'd quickly realize these weren't just random collections of plants. They were carefully composed living artworks. Imagine strolling through a section where the colors are deliberately arranged, perhaps a stunning gradient from deep purples to fiery reds, or a calming blend of greens. It's a mainstream historical fact that the Aztecs used flowers extensively in their rituals, decorations, and daily life, symbolizing everything from sacrifice to beauty. This reverence for flowers translated directly into their garden design. You might see specific beds dedicated entirely to a single species, creating a breathtaking burst of uniform color or intricate patterns woven from different foliage textures. The arrangement wasn't just about color, though. You'd notice the interplay of heights, with taller trees providing shade and a dramatic backdrop for lower shrubs and ground covers. Pathways would curve gently, leading your eye through various vistas, perhaps opening onto a serene pond or a small, sculpted fountain. A quirky tidbit is that the Aztecs also practiced a form of topiary, subtly shaping certain trees or shrubs to create more formal lines or even abstract forms, though not as elaborate as the European labyrinths that would come later. It was a more naturalistic sculpting, guiding growth rather than forcing it into rigid shapes. You might also spot decorative elements like carved stone benches or small altars, seamlessly integrated into the botanical design, inviting rest and contemplation. Historians still argue about the precise aesthetic principles that guided Aztec garden design, whether it was primarily symbolic, practical, or purely artistic, but the undeniable beauty and intentionality speak for themselves. The overall effect was one of harmonious balance, a visual feast that also managed to feel utterly peaceful. You'd find yourself walking at a slower pace, drawn in by the intricate details and the sheer vibrancy of the living tableau around you. It was a place designed to engage all the senses, but especially the eyes, offering a constantly shifting panorama of natural beauty. The sunlight filtering through the leaves, casting dappled shadows on the paths, would only enhance the visual experience, making each visit a new discovery. It was less about conquering nature and more about collaborating with it to create something truly magnificent and visually soothing. As you continue your tranquil stroll through these ancient gardens, your nose would become just as engaged as your eyes. For the Aztecs, gardens were not just about visual splendor. They were profound sensory experiences, and scent played a crucial role. Imagine the air, not just fresh and clean, but layered with a complex tapestry of fragrances. It's a mainstream historical fact that the Aztecs prized aromatic plants for perfumes, incense, and their use in ceremonies. You might encounter beds dedicated to the cultivation of the Cempasúchil, the marigold, whose distinct, slightly spicy fragrance was believed to guide the spirits of the dead. Its earthy, pungent notes would mingle with sweeter, more delicate perfumes. You'd walk past clusters of fragrant jasmine or the subtly sweet scent of vanilla, extracted from its orchid pods. Perhaps the sharp, invigorating aroma of pine or cedar, used not just as timber, but for their resinous perfumes. A quirky tidbit is that the Aztecs also used specific flowers and resins to create personal deodorants and breath fresheners, making their daily lives a little more pleasant in a world without modern hygiene products. So, while you might be thinking, "Thank goodness I don't have to smell ancient sewage," you'd be pleasantly surprised by the more intentional, delightful fragrances cultivated in these spaces. Historians still argue about the exact methods and recipes for their ancient perfumes, but the emphasis on scent in their culture is well documented. The air itself would feel alive with these aromatic offerings, changing subtly as you moved from one area to another. One moment, you might be enveloped in the sweet, almost intoxicating cloud of blooming flowers. The next, the crisp, clean scent of a medicinal herb garden. It was a conscious effort to create an immersive, multi-sensory environment, where even the simple act of breathing became a gentle pleasure. These scented gardens weren't just for luxury. They were believed to have therapeutic properties, calming the mind and soothing the spirit. You could spend hours simply inhaling the history, allowing the gentle fragrances to wash over you, lulling you into a state of deep relaxation. It's like aromatherapy, but with way more historical context and fewer diffusers. The creation and maintenance of these elaborate gardens, from the grand royal estates to the humble courtyard plots, required specialized knowledge and dedicated labor. You wouldn't just stumble into a perfect Aztec garden. It was the result of the tireless efforts of skilled professionals. Imagine, if you will, the taosleepy, the gardeners, meticulously tending to every plant, every waterway, with a precision born of generations of accumulated wisdom. It's a mainstream historical fact that Aztec society was highly organized, with specialized roles for various professions, and gardening was no exception. These weren't just common laborers. They were experts in botany, hydrology, and horticulture, possessing an encyclopedic knowledge of plants, soils, and the delicate balance of their ecosystems. You might observe a taosleepy carefully pruning a shrub with an obsidian blade, or gently transplanting a young sapling with practiced hands. Their movements would be deliberate, respectful of the living material they were working with. A quirky tidbit is that these gardeners often passed their knowledge down orally, from parent to child, ensuring that generations of expertise were preserved. It was a craft, an art form, and a science, all rolled into one. You can almost hear their quiet conversations, perhaps discussing the best time to plant a certain crop, or the subtle signs that a particular plant needed more water or shade. Historians still argue about the exact social status of these specialized gardeners, but it's clear they held a respected position due to their vital skills. Their work wasn't just physical, it was intellectual. They understood the nuances of plant diseases, the effects of different types of soil, and the intricate cycles of growth and decay. They were the unsung heroes behind the beauty and bounty of Tenochtitlan's green spaces, tirelessly ensuring that the emperor's pleasure gardens flourished and the commoner's patch provided sustenance. You'd witness their patience, their dedication, and their profound connection to the earth they so carefully tended. It's like having a team of botanists, hydrologists, and landscapers all rolled into one, operating without a single piece of modern machinery, relying solely on their hands, their tools, and their vast knowledge. Stepping into an Aztec garden wasn't just a visual or olfactory experience. It was an auditory one too. You'd find yourself enveloped in a gentle symphony of natural sounds, a perfect accompaniment to the serene visuals. Imagine the soft rustle of leaves as a gentle breeze drifts through the trees, a soothing whisper that invites calm. It's a mainstream historical fact that the Aztecs were keen observers of nature, and their urban planning aimed to integrate natural elements rather than exclude them. This meant the sounds of nature were not seen as background noise, but as integral to the living environment. You might hear the distant hum of insects, a constant, low drone that speaks of a thriving ecosystem. Perhaps, if you were near a water feature, you'd pick up the gentle gurgle of flowing water in a channel or the soft splash of a small fountain. A quirky tidbit is that some gardens were rumored to have specific types of hollow gourds or bamboo chimes designed to produce subtle, wind-activated sounds, creating a unique, almost ethereal musical quality. It's like having a natural ambient sound machine, centuries before anyone coined the term white noise. You could imagine closing your eyes and just letting these sounds wash over you, a natural sedative in the heart of a bustling city. Historians still argue about the exact prevalence of such deliberate sound-producing elements, but the general understanding of the importance of natural acoustics in these spaces is clear. Beyond the wind and water, there would be the sounds of life. The chirping and twittering of the many birds attracted to the lush vegetation, a constant, cheerful chorus. Perhaps the soft buzz of a hummingbird hovering at a flower, its tiny wings beating at an astonishing rate. These were not loud, jarring noises, but rather a quiet, consistent backdrop that underscored the tranquility of the setting. It's a subtle auditory texture that would lull you into a state of deep relaxation, allowing your mind to drift and unwind. You'd realize that these gardens were designed not just for beauty, but as holistic sanctuaries for the senses, providing a complete escape from the demands of the day. These magnificent gardens were not just tranquil retreats. They were also vital stages for the grand theater of Aztec life, serving as venues for important feasts, ceremonies, and political gatherings. Imagine a vibrant feast unfolding beneath the shade of towering trees, the air thick with the aroma of roasting meats and rich sauces, accompanied by the gentle murmurs of conversation and the distant strains of music. It's a mainstream historical fact that feasting and ritual were central to Aztec social and religious life, fostering community and honoring the gods. These carefully cultivated garden spaces provided the perfect backdrop for such significant events, offering both beauty and ample room for many attendees. You might witness a solemn religious procession winding its way through a flower-laden path, the priests adorned with elaborate featherwork and the air thick with the scent of copal incense. Or perhaps a more joyous celebration, with dancers adorned in colorful costumes moving rhythmically to the beat of drums, their laughter echoing softly through the foliage. A quirky tidbit is that some larger garden estates even included dedicated platforms or small temples designed specifically for these ceremonial purposes, seamlessly integrated into the natural landscape. It was a fusion of nature and culture, where the environment itself participated in the grandeur of the occasion. Historians still argue about the precise distinction between sacred and secular uses of specific garden areas, but it's clear there was significant overlap, with beauty and ritual often intertwined. The ambience of these events would have been profoundly shaped by their garden setting. The natural beauty would have elevated the sense of occasion, lending an air of reverence and splendor to even the most elaborate ceremonies. You could almost feel the weight of history and tradition in these spaces, as generations of Aztecs had gathered there for moments of great importance. The soft lighting from braziers at night, casting flickering shadows among the trees, would have transformed the garden into an almost mystical realm, perfect for storytelling and spiritual contemplation. It was a testament to the Aztecs' ability to create spaces that were not only functional and beautiful, but deeply meaningful, serving as living backdrops for their rich cultural tapestry. Sadly, the tranquility and beauty of these magnificent Aztec gardens were not destined to last forever. You're now standing at a precipice in time, observing the subtle, then dramatic, shifts that would irrevocably alter these landscapes. Imagine the distant, unsettling clang of foreign steel, the murmurs of strange tongues, and the growing sense of unease that began to ripple through Tenochtitlan. It's a mainstream historical fact that the arrival of the Spanish conquistadors in 1519 marked the beginning of the end for the independent Aztec Empire, and, with it, the wholesale transformation of its urban and natural spaces. You might initially see a few curious individuals, perhaps wearing unfamiliar armor, staring at the exotic plants with a mixture of wonder and disdain. As the conquest unfolded, the focus shifted dramatically from cultivation to destruction. The meticulous care that had defined these gardens for centuries gave way to neglect, or worse, deliberate ruin. The very water systems that had sustained the Chinampas and royal gardens were often disrupted, either through siege tactics or simply a lack of understanding and maintenance by the new arrivals. A quirky tidbit is that some Spanish accounts describe their initial amazement at the beauty and sophistication of these gardens, with Bernal Diaz del Castillo marveling at the great gardens and ponds of fresh water. However, this admiration rarely translated into preservation. Historians still argue about the precise extent of deliberate destruction versus neglect, but the outcome was undeniable. The vibrant green heart of Tenochtitlan withered. The elaborate botanical collections, meticulously gathered from across the empire, were largely dispersed or lost. The medicinal knowledge, so carefully cultivated by the Tlaquiuqui, was often dismissed or suppressed in favor of European medical practices. Imagine the silent, heartbreaking sight of once thriving plots slowly being overrun by weeds, or canals falling into disrepair, their life-giving waters stagnating. The sounds of birds and flowing water would gradually be replaced by the sounds of construction as European-style buildings began to replace the indigenous architecture, often using the very stones of the ancient structures. It's a stark reminder that history is not always about gradual evolution, but sometimes about abrupt and profound change, where entire ways of life and their beautiful expressions can fade into memory. Despite the profound changes brought by the Spanish conquest, the spirit of Aztec gardening and its incredible ingenuity didn't entirely vanish. You might be surprised to discover its subtle echoes, even in the modern landscape of Mexico City. Imagine walking through certain parts of the vast metropolis and catching glimpses of familiar patterns, a whisper of a bygone era. It's a mainstream historical fact that while much of Tenochtitlan was buried or built over, the underlying geographical and hydrological realities persisted. The Chinampas, for instance, those ingenious floating gardens, didn't simply disappear overnight. Today, if you travel to Xochimilco, a borough in the southern part of Mexico City, you'll find that the Chinampas are still very much alive. You can even take a colorful trajinera, a traditional flat-bottomed boat, through a network of canals, passing by these very same agricultural islands. A quirky tidbit is that many of the families who farm these Chinampas today are direct descendants of the original inhabitants, carrying on ancient agricultural practices passed down through generations. It's like stepping into a living museum, where the techniques of cultivation haven't fundamentally changed in centuries. Historians still argue about the precise lineage of all existing Chinampa plots, but their continuity from pre-Hispanic times is widely accepted. You might see farmers poling their boats, much as the Aztecs did, transporting fresh produce to local markets. The sounds of their work, the gentle lapping of water, and the rustle of crops in the breeze are direct auditory links to the past. While the grand royal gardens of Chapultepec were largely transformed into European-style parks or built upon, the enduring presence of native plant species in Mexico's flora, many first cultivated by the Aztecs, is another testament to their legacy. The knowledge of their medicinal properties, too, though sometimes blended with European traditions, has persisted in various forms. It's a quiet resilience, a testament to the power of deeply rooted practices and the enduring human connection to the land. You realize that even when empires fall, some seeds continue to grow, quietly, persistently, carrying history within their very leaves. So, as our tranquil journey through the secret gardens of the Aztec Empire comes to a gentle close, you're left with a subtle but profound understanding. It wasn't just about pretty flowers or efficient farming. It was about a holistic worldview, a deep reverence for nature, and an astonishing level of ingenuity. Imagine, one last time, the soft glow of twilight settling over a Chinampa, the air cooling, carrying the faint, sweet scent of night-blooming jasmine. The gentle lapping of water against the soil, a timeless rhythm that has echoed for centuries. These gardens, now largely lost to time and transformation, remind us that beauty, utility, and spirituality can be intertwined in the most profound ways. The knowledge they cultivated, the spaces they created, were more than just green patches. They were living manifestations of a culture that understood the intricate dance between humanity and the natural world. Even though you can't step directly into a 15th century Tenochtitlan garden anymore, their essence lingers. Perhaps the next time you see a verdant park, or even a humble pot of herbs on a windowsill, you'll feel a faint echo of that ancient, green wisdom. The gentle hum of life, the quiet resilience of a growing plant, the soothing presence of water, these are universal comforts, perfected by the Aztecs in ways that still resonate. As the imagery fades, and the sounds of ancient Tenochtitlan soften into the quiet hum of your own surroundings, allow your mind to drift. The gentle rhythm of history, the quiet stories of ingenious people, are designed to lull you into a peaceful slumber. Let the last lingering scent of forgotten blossoms and the soft whisper of leaves from a bygone era guide you towards a restful night. There's no need to hold on to these thoughts. Simply let them float away like petals on a calm pond. Just breathe and relax.